here is the man of the hour, Sylvain. What is up, man? How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Absolute pleasure. And where are you located currently?
I'm currently in Spain, but I've been living in Silicon Valley for the last 10 years.
Very, very good. Living in Silicon Valley for the last 10 years. We had Sylvain on one of our Twitter spaces to hear a little bit about his background. Sylvain's an engineer by trade, then moving into entrepreneurship, now driving content for us, doing great work there. So like I said, it's someone who you're going to be seeing quite frequently in our community. We will also be hanging out together next week in LA. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, this weekend. It's actually much sooner than it seems. Anyway, one of the things that's very important in our community, we answer the questions, we deal with the questions, what is running data on Kubernetes? How do you run data on Kubernetes? But a question that's even bigger than that is why run data on Kubernetes? And this is really important because all of you, when you're out there interacting with folks, and you say, hey, I'm in this community called Data on Kubernetes. You're like, what's that about? Well, and why is that about? All right, why is this happening? Why is this going on? So Sylvain is going to be addressing these key questions. So always remember as well too, you can interact with Sylvain on Slack. If you've got questions about this, want to take it a little bit further, if you want some knowledge, definitely check out all the blogs that are going on. Got some great blogs as well too, leading up to KubeCon and the things you can anticipate there. Anyway, Sylvain, you're the expert. I don't want to take any more of your time. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Bart. All right, starting my screen.
Looking good.
Okay, so before starting, I want to give a big shout out to the DoK interns. They are doing an important part of the work that we are carrying here as a community. And without them, we would not be able to achieve where we are today. So big thank you to them. So as Bart explained, one of the main reasons that I hope you will get away from this day of discussing about data on Kubernetes is the why we are actually speaking about all of this. What are the reasons, technical and business reasons, that drive us to want to help the tech community to have to run their stateful workload on Kubernetes? If you take a step back, it's all about containers, and we've been using container for goods for decades. It really revolutionized international trade. Now we are transporting container all around the world very quickly. That's how you can get your things delivered at home so quickly and have goods from all over the world. And so then we brought this concept to software and started with compute. Docker kind of made this, not kind of, but made this popular. Before that, you had what we call jail. That was it's still a Linux concept that is kind of the ancestor of containers. And containers are now like something that most organizations use. The next frontier is to have data on Kubernetes. That's where we are now. And so my talk will cover the reason why an organization may want to do that. Little bit about myself. As Bart said, I used to be a software engineer. I was actually in system administration, more specifically an SRE, site reliability engineer. So I was in charge of ensuring that the infrastructure that was hosting our technical stack and therefore our product was secure, that it was reliable and scalable. I've worked at a large company like LinkedIn, smaller startup like SlideShare, and the last half a decade of my life was spent actually building software engineering school to empower anyone who wants to become a software engineer to do so. And finally, a few months ago, I joined Bart on its mission to democratize the data on Kubernetes concept. All right, let's jump into it. So the first reason why we believe that organizations should run their data on Kubernetes is that by doing so, you will have all your, whether it's stateful or stateless workflow on Kubernetes. And therefore you have one stack for everything. It really simplifies operation by having everything under one tech, one platform. For every new stack that you have to manage, it's a level of complexity. It's ensuring that the solution is secure, that you are applying patch, and very importantly, that you have the knowledge in-house in your team to handle this tech, right? And sometimes take good direction, bad direction, you need to assess them. It's a lot of work. And so by having everything under one roof, you really simplify your life. And so by simplifying this, the engineering team can focus their energy on more interesting and harder problems, perhaps engineering challenges that will bring more value to the business rather than just, the thing of managing multiple tech tools. So that's the first reason and very important one. The second reason why you may want to run your data on Kubernetes is that Kubernetes comes with a lot of pre-built-in features. And so by moving your stateful workload on Kubernetes, you can enjoy all of them. Whether it's about monitoring your stack, you already have a lot of tools like Prometheus, Grafana. It's an easy plug and play. It's very simple. If you need to set up SSL certificates, you have modules to allow that. Kubernetes obviously will do the auto healing, auto scaling of your infrastructure. And then we are in an era of multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environment, whether it's multiple public cloud or maybe you have on-premise a private cloud and then a multi-cloud strategy where basically you need to be able to host your application in multiple type of environment. All of this is handled for free by Kubernetes. And so moving your stateful workload there makes sense, because if you would do this yourself, it would be very, very hard. On a similar note, speaking about the ability to port your stateful workload into different environments, the portability element is quite interesting. And here I speak about moving from one environment to another. And here we speak about avoiding vendor lock-in. So the idea here is that if, let's say, you host all your infrastructure on Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure, and suddenly they increase the price, or perhaps there is some technical elements that don't fit your requirement anymore. If you develop your whole infrastructure around their product, then you are kind of stuck. It can be very hard to move to a new cloud, very costly, and so you end up not doing it. And so by hosting everything on Kubernetes, you remove this potential limitation, right? Because Kubernetes is agnostic. You can port it in whichever environment. And so that's definitely something that could be a game changer for a company. The fourth point is about security and compliance. So in some industries, such as government, healthcare, finance, telecommunication, there are very strict security and compliance standards for security reasons. And so most of the time, this organization cannot take advantage of the great tools that are available through the public clouds. So here, understand AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. And so they have to host their own, they have to build and manage their own data center, their own infrastructure. Yet they want to take advantage of the same type of modern tool to manage their infrastructure. And so Kubernetes is one of basically the best way probably to do that. And so for this organization, Kubernetes allows them to be using as good tools as if they would be able to use this public platform. And the last and fifth point is the cost. Getting back to the first point about having an infrastructure that's under one roof and having one engineering team, well, you save on cost. Most of the time, the cost of engineering, right, the employee you hire is one of the biggest spend on the company finance sheet. And so by having one tool, you can have one team managing Kubernetes. And especially now, it's very hard to find tech talent. It's especially harder to find system administration type of talent who are the ones that generally know Kubernetes. So the salary for this type of professional is extremely high. It's very hard to find them. And finally, Kubernetes really empower companies if whether they are on-premise and using Kubernetes, they can make the most out of their servers, right? Because it's not like, let's say, one server, one team, or one server, one project, right? They can really leverage all their resources to scale where they need, when they need. And it's the same case for when they are in the cloud. Really, like Kubernetes allows you to scale up and down on demand. So to summarize, the 5 points why organizations should run their stateful workload on Kubernetes. The first one is that you have one stack to rule them all. The second one is that you can benefit from all the built-in features that Kubernetes is offering. The third one is portability. The fourth one is security and compliance. And the fifth one is cost. Thank you. And you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Slack. I'm part of the community, so always happy to collaborate, answer questions. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Sylvain. Very good to have this stuff clear. Like I said, this is something that's going to come up for a lot of folks when they're talking about the community, what the kind of stuff that they're doing. Very important to have this foundational sort of understanding. Obviously, there are technical aspects, but a lot of it's historical aspects of understanding how these things have developed and have got us to the point that where we're at. And also why, once again, is that it might be a wonderful technology, but if it's not really providing business value to end users, obviously it's probably, its level of adoption is not going to be so high. But anyway, this is one of the reasons why our community exists, to drive these conversations forward and make sure that things are being done in the right way. So anyway, like I said, you'll see a lot more from Sylvain. Looking forward to hanging out with Sylvain very soon in LA. So anyway, thank you very much.